The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor 3 inches from Elena's head, and she didn't even flinch. "You missed," she said calmly, meeting the 6-year-old's furious green eyes. "Your brother's aim was better yesterday with the soup tureen." Behind her, she heard Sebastian Blackwood's sharp intake of breath. The billionaire had finally emerged from his office to witness what the 16th nanny couldn't handle. But Elena wasn't a nanny. She was just the maid who'd made one critical mistake. She'd refused to quit. Maya Blackwood stood on the grand staircase, another priceless vase clutched in her small hands, tears streaming down her porcelain face. "I hate you!" she screamed. "Leave! Everyone leaves!" And in that moment, watching this beautiful, broken child wage war against another adult who would inevitably abandon her, Elena did the one thing no nanny, no professional, no sane person had ever done. She sat down on the floor, crossed her legs, and started to cry too. 3 weeks earlier, Elena Martinez had stood outside the Blackwood mansion with nothing but a borrowed suitcase and a heart full of desperation. The iron gates alone probably cost more than every place she'd ever lived in combined. Beyond them, the estate sprawled like something from a fairy tale, all sweeping lawns, marble fountains, and windows that glittered like diamonds in the afternoon sun. It was the kind of wealth that made you feel small just looking at it. Elena smoothed down her thrift store blouse and checked her reflection in her phone screen one last time. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a severe bun that made her look older than 27. The scar on her left cheek, faint but visible, that no amount of makeup could fully hide. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "It's just cleaning. You've cleaned before." The intercom crackled. "State your business." The voice was clipped, professional, cold. "Elena Martinez, I'm here for the maid position. The agency sent me." A long pause, then the gate swung open with a low, mechanical hum. The walk up the driveway felt like crossing into another world. Manicured hedges lined the path, shaped into perfect geometric forms. The fountain in the circular drive featured 3 marble cherubs, water cascading from their upturned hands. The mansion itself was a modern masterpiece, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Beautiful, cold, empty. The front door opened before Elena could knock. A woman in her 50s stood there, gray hair pulled back in a tight chignon, wearing a black dress that screamed head housekeeper. Her eyes swept over Elena with the efficiency of an airport scanner. "Mrs. Kowalski," the woman said, not offering her hand. "You're late." Elena glanced at her phone. She was 2 minutes early. "I'm sorry, The agency said you'd be here at 2 o'clock sharp. It's 2:02. Mrs. Kowalski stepped aside, gesturing Elena in. "Mr. Blackwood doesn't tolerate tardiness. Remember that." The interior was even more intimidating than the exterior. The foyer was a cathedral of white marble and chrome, with a floating staircase that seemed to defy physics. Modern art hung on the walls, the kind Elena suspected cost more than most people's houses. Everything was pristine, sterile, perfect, and completely silent. "The position is straightforward," Mrs. Kowalski said, her heels clicking against the marble as she led Elena through the house. "General housekeeping, laundry, meal preparation assistance. You'll work 6 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Sundays off, room and board included. There's a small apartment above the garage." Elena's heart lifted slightly. Room and board. That meant she could save everything she earned. That meant she could finally... "However," Mrs. Kowalski continued, her voice dropping, "there are complications you should be aware of." They'd entered a massive kitchen that looked like something from a cooking show. Stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, an island the size of Elena's last studio apartment. Through the window, she could see a pool and what looked like a tennis court beyond. Mrs. Kowalski turned to face her, and for the first time, Elena saw something like sympathy in the older woman's eyes. "The children," Mrs. Kowalski said simply. "Mr. Blackwood has children?" "Twin 6-year-olds, Maya and Lucas." Mrs. Kowalski moved to the coffee maker, pouring herself a cup with practiced efficiency. She didn't offer one to Elena. "Their mother died 2 years ago, cancer. Since then, they've been difficult." Elena had worked with difficult children before. She'd volunteered at shelters, at community centers, at churches. Kids acting out because of trauma, she understood that. She'd been one of those kids once. "How difficult?" Elena asked. Mrs. Kowalski's laugh was brittle. "We've gone through 16 nannies in 18 months. The last one lasted 3 days. The one before that made it almost 2 weeks before she quit via text message from the emergency room." Elena's stomach dropped. "Emergency room?" "Lucas pushed her down the stairs, claimed it was an accident. The lawyer agreed it couldn't be proven either way. The children are clever about their methods." "And Mr. Blackwood?" "Works 18-hour days, brilliant businessman, completely overwhelmed father." Mrs. Kowalski set down her cup. "Look, I'll be honest with you. The agency probably didn't tell you the full situation because no one would take the job otherwise. You're not just here to clean. You'll be in this house with those children, and they will test you. They drive away everyone." Elena thought about the envelope in her purse. Past due, final notice, eviction proceedings. She thought about sleeping in her car again, about the shelter where she'd spent last winter, about the social worker's pitying eyes when she said, "Maybe it's time to give up on getting custody back." She thought about her daughter. "I'll take the job," Elena said. Mrs. Kowalski studied her for a long moment. "You're running from something." It wasn't a question. "Aren't we all?" Elena replied. The apartment above the garage was small but clean, a studio with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a window that looked out over the estate's back gardens. After Mrs. Kowalski left her to settle in, Elena sat on the edge of the narrow bed and finally let herself breathe. She'd done it. She had a job, a place to stay, a chance to save money. 6 months of this, maybe less if she was careful, and she'd have enough for a lawyer, a real lawyer, not an overworked public defender, someone who could help her get Emma back. Elena pulled out her phone and opened her photos. Emma's face filled the screen, 4 years old in the picture, gap-toothed smile, chocolate smeared on her cheek. That photo was 2 years old now. Emma would be 6 now, the same age as the Blackwood twins. Did she still have that same smile? Did she remember her mother's voice? Did she hate Elena for not being there? "I'm coming, baby," Elena whispered to the photo. "Mommy's going to fix everything. I promise." A crash echoed from the main house, followed by shouting. Elena stood, tucking her phone away. Whatever was happening in that mansion, whatever those children were going through, she understood pain. She understood loss. She understood what it was like to be a kid whose world had shattered and no one seemed to notice you were bleeding. Maybe that made her the worst person for this job, or maybe that made her the only person who could actually reach them. She met the twins the next morning. Elena had arrived at the main house at 6:45 a.m., determined to prove Mrs. Kowalski wrong about the tardiness. The kitchen was empty, the house still wrapped in pre-dawn quiet. She'd just started the coffee maker when she heard it, a low sobbing coming from somewhere above. She froze, listening. It was a child's cry, muffled and broken, like someone trying desperately not to be heard. Mrs. Kowalski had been clear. "Stay out of the children's wing. That's the Manny's domain. Your job is to clean the rest of the house and stay out of the way." But that crying... Elena found herself climbing the floating staircase before she'd consciously decided to move. The second floor was a maze of hallways, all decorated in the same sterile, modern style. She followed the sound to a door at the end of the east wing, slightly ajar, soft light spilling out. Through the crack, she could see a little girl sitting on the floor of what had to be the most elaborate bedroom Elena had ever seen. Pink canopy bed, walls full of toys and books, a reading nook with cushions that probably cost more than Elena's last studio apartment. But the little girl wasn't playing with any of it. She sat in the corner in her nightgown, arms wrapped around her knees, crying into her folded arms. Elena's heart cracked. She knew that cry. It was the cry of a child who'd learned that no one comes when you call. She pushed the door open gently. "Hey, sweetheart." The little girl's head snapped up. She had green eyes, startling against dark hair, that were red-rimmed and furious. For a second, Elena saw her daughter's face overlaid on this stranger's, and it took everything she had not to break down herself. "Who are you?" the girl demanded, swiping at her tears. "You're not Miss Patricia." "I'm Elena. I'm here to help out around the house. Are you okay?" "Go away." The girl turned her face back to her knees. "I'm not talking to you." Elena should have left, should have backed out and pretended she'd never seen anything. Instead, she stepped into the room and sat down on the floor, keeping a respectful distance. "When I'm sad," Elena said quietly, "I like to count things, like I'll count all the purple things I can see, or all the round things. It helps my brain stop thinking about the sad stuff for a minute." The girl didn't respond, but her crying had quieted to hiccuping breaths. "Right now, I can see, let's see, 1, 2, 3 purple things in this room. That stuffed unicorn, those curtains, and that book spine over there. Can you see any more?" Silence. Then, so quietly Elena almost missed it. "The pillow on my bed. It has purple stripes." "You're right. That's 4. Good eye." The little girl finally looked up. Her eyes were still wary, but some of the hostility had faded. "Why do you count things?" "Because sometimes," Elena said, "my brain gets too full of scary thoughts or sad thoughts, and counting helps me put them somewhere else for a while. Does your brain ever feel too full?" The girl nodded slowly. "What's making you sad this morning, sweetheart?" "I'm not supposed to tell strangers things." But the girl was studying Elena now, curious. "And I'm not your sweetheart. I'm Maya." "Nice to meet you, Maya. I'm Elena." "You already said that." Maya tilted her head. "You have a scar. What happened?" Elena touched her cheek automatically. Most people pretended not to notice. Kids never did. "I was in an accident when I was younger, a car accident." "Did it hurt?" "Yes, but not as much as what I was feeling on the inside." Maya seemed to consider this. "My mom died," she said, as casually as if she'd announced the weather. 2 years and 4 months and 11 days ago." Elena's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry, Maya." "Everyone says that. It doesn't bring her back." Maya pulled at a thread on her nightgown. "The nannies all pretend to be nice at first, but then they leave too. Are you going to leave?" "I'm not a nanny, remember? I'm just here to help clean and—" "Everyone leaves," Maya interrupted, her voice rising. "Even Daddy. He's always in his office or on trips or in meetings. He doesn't want us anymore. Nobody wants us." Before Elena could respond, another voice cut through the room. "Maya, who are you talking to?" A little boy appeared in the doorway, same green eyes, same dark hair, but where Maya's face was open with emotion, his was locked down tight. He wore pajamas with rocket ships on them and held what looked like a tablet in one hand. "This is Elena. She's new." The boy, Lucas, Elena assumed, looked her up and down with an expression far too jaded for a 6-year-old. "Another nanny. Great." "I'm not—" "How long do you think this one will last?" Lucas asked his sister, ignoring Elena completely. "I bet 3 days. Remember Miss Jennifer? She lasted 3 days." "Miss Patricia lasted 5, Maya said. She'd stopped crying entirely now, distracted by her brother's game. "But Miss Karen only lasted 1. That's because you put the snake in her bed. Lucas almost smiled. That was good. It was just a garden snake. It wasn't even poisonous. Elena stood slowly, brushing off her pants. Both children watched her with identical expressions of calculation. They were testing her, she realized, waiting to see if she'd lecture them or yell or run to their father with complaints. "For the record," Elena said calmly, "I'm not a nanny. I'm just here to help keep the house clean and—" "Everyone's part of it," Lucas said darkly. "This whole house is part of it." "Well, I'm sorry you're both hurting, and I'm sorry grown-ups keep leaving you. That's not fair, and it's not your fault." Both children stared at her like she'd started speaking another language. "But putting snakes in people's beds," Elena continued, "that's actually kind of brilliant. Did you catch it yourself?" Maya's mouth opened slightly. You're not mad?" "Oh, I didn't say that. If you put a snake in my bed, we're going to have words. I'm just saying, as pranks go, it shows creativity and forward planning. Those are good skills." Lucas narrowed his eyes. "You're weird." "Yeah, probably." Elena moved toward the door. "I should get back to work. It was nice meeting you both." "Wait," Maya said. "Are you going to tell Daddy we were talking about the nannies?" Elena paused in the doorway. Both children were watching her with an intensity that made her heart ache. They were so small, so young, and already so convinced that everyone would betray them. "No," Elena said, "I'm not going to tell him anything. What we talked about stays between us, okay?" She left before they could respond, her hands shaking as she descended the stairs. She'd just broken at least 3 of Mrs. Kowalski's rules. She'd gone into the children's wing, she'd engaged with the kids, she'd essentially promised to keep secrets from their father. But she couldn't shake the image of Maya crying alone in her corner, or Lucas's world-weary eyes in a 6-year-old's face. Those children weren't terrors, they were just terrified. The rest of that first week passed in a blur of cleaning, learning the house's systems, and catching glimpses of the twins. They didn't seek her out, but they watched her. Elena could feel their eyes tracking her movements whenever she cleaned the common areas. Lucas would pretend to be absorbed in his tablet while she dusted the living room, but she could see him glancing up every several seconds. Maya would sometimes sit at the top of the stairs, supposedly reading a book, but the pages never turned. They were studying her, trying to figure her out, waiting to see if she'd show her true colors. Elena didn't push. She just went about her work, acknowledged them with a nod or a small smile when their paths crossed, and otherwise gave them space. She didn't meet their father until day 6. It was just past midnight. Elena had been in her apartment above the garage, unable to sleep, when she'd noticed the light still on in one of the main house's upstairs windows. She'd pulled on a sweater and crossed the lawn, intending to just turn off whatever light had been left on. The door to the study was open, and inside, slumped over a massive desk covered with papers and computer monitors, was a man who could only be Sebastian Blackwood. Even asleep and disheveled, he was striking. Dark hair shot through with premature silver, strong jaw shadowed with stubble. He wore a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle. He looked exhausted even in sleep, dark circles under his eyes, tension lines etched around his mouth. Elena should have left, should have just turned off the light and gone back to her apartment. Instead, she found herself picking up the throw blanket from the leather couch and draping it gently over his shoulders. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. "Your kids miss you," Elena said, so quietly she barely heard herself. "They need you." She turned off the desk lamp, leaving just the small reading light on, and slipped out of the study. She didn't see the way his eyes opened after she left, or the way he touched the blanket with something like wonder. The explosion happened on day 8. Elena had just finished making lunch. Simple sandwiches and fruit, since the current nanny, the 17th one, a severe woman named Miss Patricia, who'd arrived 2 days earlier, had said the children were too spoiled and needed to learn to eat what they were given. Miss Patricia was in the dining room with the twins, and from the kitchen, Elena could hear the escalating tension. "I don't like turkey," Maya was saying, her voice taking on that edge Elena had learned meant tears were close. "Then you'll go hungry," Miss Patricia replied coldly. "I'm not a short-order cook, young lady. You'll eat what's provided or you'll eat nothing." "But she's allergic to turkey," Lucas interjected. "It makes her throat itchy." "Nonsense. That's not on her medical chart. You're both just spoiled rotten." Elena's hand stilled over the dishes she'd been washing. She'd seen Maya's medical information during her first day. Mrs. Kowalski had included it in the household briefing. Mild turkey allergy, no anaphylaxis risk, but caused oral discomfort. She dried her hands and moved to the dining room doorway. Miss Patricia was standing over Maya with her arms crossed, the sandwich sitting untouched on the little girl's plate. Maya's eyes were red, her hands balled into fists in her lap. Lucas sat rigid beside her, his jaw clenched. "Excuse me," Elena said softly. "I can make Maya something else if—" "This doesn't concern you," Miss Patricia snapped. "You're the maid, not the nanny. Know your place." The words hung in the air like a slap. Elena felt her face flush, but she kept her voice steady. "I just thought—" "I don't care what you thought. These children need discipline and structure, not coddling from someone who doesn't understand their needs." Miss Patricia turned back to Maya. "Eat, now." And that's when Maya picked up the sandwich and threw it directly at Miss Patricia's face. The world seemed to slow down. The sandwich hit with a wet smack, turkey and lettuce and mayo sliding down Miss Patricia's pressed white blouse. The nanny's face went from white to red to purple. "You little brat!" Miss Patricia lunged forward, her hand raised. Elena moved without thinking. She stepped between the nanny and Maya, catching Miss Patricia's wrist mid-swing. "Don't," Elena said quietly. "Don't you dare." For a moment, everyone froze. Miss Patricia stared at Elena with shock and fury. Behind Elena, both twins had gone completely silent. "How dare you?" Miss Patricia hissed. "How dare you interfere with my discipline methods?" "You're not disciplining, you're being cruel. There's a difference." Miss Patricia yanked her wrist free. "We'll see what Mr. Blackwood has to say about this, about all of this." She stormed toward the door, then turned back with a cold smile. "Enjoy your little victory. You'll all be out on the street by tonight." She left, footsteps thundering up the stairs. Elena's heart was pounding. She'd just grabbed a nanny, defended children who weren't hers to defend, completely overstepped her position. Mrs. Kowalski was going to fire her. Mr. Blackwood was going to fire her. She'd be back to square one, back to her car, back to having no way to save for the lawyer she needed. A small hand slipped into hers. Elena looked down. Maya was staring up at her with wide eyes, her hand trembling in Elena's. "You didn't let her hit me." "Of course not, sweetheart." Elena squeezed her hand gently. "No one should ever hit you." But now you'll leave too. Everyone leaves." Lucas hadn't moved from his chair, but his eyes were locked on Elena with an intensity that made her chest ache. "I don't know what's going to happen," Elena admitted. She knelt down so she was at Maya's eye level. "Maybe I will have to leave, but not because of you, not because of anything you did. You understand that?" Maya nodded, but tears were streaming down her face now. "I'm sorry I threw the sandwich. I just—" "You were scared and angry and you didn't know what else to do," Elena said softly. "I get it, Maya. I really do." "Nobody else gets it," Lucas said suddenly. His voice was thick, like he was fighting his own tears. "Nobody else even tries." Before Elena could respond, heavy footsteps sounded in the hallway. Sebastian Blackwood appeared in the doorway, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He was even more imposing in person than he'd been asleep at his desk. Tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and the kind of presence that made you stand up straighter without meaning to. His gray eyes swept the room, taking in the food on Miss Patricia's empty chair, the way Maya was clinging to Elena's hand, Lucas's defensive posture. "Someone want to tell me," he said, his voice dangerously quiet, "why Miss Patricia just quit via text message from a cab? What happens next? Drop a comment below. Do you think Sebastian will fire Elena on the spot, or is he about to see something in her that 17 nannies couldn't show him?" Maya's hand tightened around Elena's. The little girl was trembling now, her eyes locked on her father with an expression that broke Elena's heart, fear mixed with desperate hope. Elena stood slowly, keeping Maya's hand in hers. "Mr. Blackwood, I can explain." "I'm sure you can." He moved into the room, and Elena noticed the exhaustion lines around his eyes were even deeper than they'd been a few nights ago. "Miss Patricia told me quite a story, something about my daughter assaulting her with food and my maid physically preventing her from disciplining the children. She was going to hit Maya," Elena said, keeping her voice level, despite the way her pulse was hammering. "You couldn't let that?" Sebastian's laugh was bitter. "You've been here barely a week. You're the cleaning staff. You have no authority over my children or their caregivers." "Daddy," Maya started. "Quiet, Maya." He didn't even look at his daughter. His eyes were fixed on Elena. Miss Patricia came highly recommended. She'd worked with difficult children before. She had a plan for implementing structure and consequences. Her plan involved forcing Maya to eat something she's allergic to, and when she reacted poorly, Miss Patricia tried to hit her. That's not what Miss Patricia said. Then Miss Patricia lied. The words hung in the air. Elena saw Sebastian's jaw clench, saw the way his hands curled into fists at his sides. She'd just called his hired professional a liar. She's definitely getting fired now. "Is that true?" Sebastian asked, but he was finally looking at his children now. "Did Miss Patricia try to hit you?" Maya nodded, tears still streaming down her face. Lucas just stared at his father with those old eyes. Sebastian closed his eyes briefly, and Elena saw something crack in his carefully controlled expression. When he opened them again, he looked at Elena with something that might be desperation. "How many does that make?" Sebastian asked quietly. 17, Lucas supplied. "In 18 months. We've been counting." "Of course you have." Sebastian dragged a hand through his hair, making it stand up in all directions. He suddenly looked less like a powerful billionaire and more like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. "And I suppose you're going to quit now too, Miss Martinez, run screaming for the hills like everyone else?" Elena should say yes, should take the out he was offering her. This family was a disaster. These children were hurting, and this man had no idea how to fix any of it. It wasn't her problem. She had her own daughter to think about, her own battles to fight. But Maya's hand was still in hers, small and trusting, and she couldn't stop thinking about Emma, about how her daughter had looked the last time Elena had seen her, eyes full of confusion and hurt, being led away by a social worker when Elena stood there in handcuffs, helpless. "No," Elena heard herself say, "I'm not quitting." All three Blackwoods stared at her. "I'm not a nanny. I'm not qualified to be a nanny, but I'm also not going to stand by and watch someone hurt a child, any child. So if that means I lose this job, then I lose it, but I'm not sorry for what I did." Sebastian studied her for a long moment. Elena forced herself to meet his gaze, even though every instinct screamed at her to look away. "You show up 15 minutes early every day," said he finally, "that you've deep-cleaned areas of this house that haven't been properly maintained in months, that you're efficient, thorough, and never complain." Elena wasn't sure where this was going. "I try to do good work."
She also says you've been seen talking to the children, despite explicit instructions to stay out of their wing. Maya's hand tightened again. Elena squeezed back gently. That's true. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Why did you do it?
Because Elena looked down at Maya, then at Lucas, then back at Sebastian. Because Maya was crying and no one was coming, and I know what that feels like. Something shifted in Sebastian's expression. For just a second, Elena saw past the billionaire CEO to the grieving widower, the overwhelmed father, the man who had no idea how to save his drowning children. "The twins like you," he said. It wasn't a question. "I don't know about that." "We do," Maya interrupted, her voice small but certain. "We like Elena. She doesn't pretend to be nice. She just is nice." "She doesn't leave," Lucas added, "even when we're bad." "You're not bad," Elena said automatically. "You're hurting. That's different." Sebastian's eyes closed briefly again. When he opened them, Elena saw defeat there. "I've tried everything, every agency, every method, every type of professional. Nothing works. They just keep leaving." "Maybe," Elena said carefully, "you've been hiring the wrong people." "And what would the right person be?" "Someone who's been broken too. Someone who understands that hurt kids don't need discipline. They need someone who sees them." Elena took a breath. "Your kids don't need another nanny, Mr. Blackwood. They need someone who won't give up on them." "Daddy!" Maya breathed, hope lighting up her tear-stained face. "Really?" "Really," he said, but he was looking at Elena. "If Miss Martinez agrees." It was insane. She wasn't qualified. She had no training, no experience beyond the volunteering she'd done years ago. She had her own child to think about, her own goals that required staying under the radar and saving every penny. But triple salary meant she could afford that lawyer in 3 months instead of 6. Health insurance meant she'd have one less mark against her when the custody evaluation happened. And these children? These children needed someone. "On one condition," Elena said. Sebastian raised an eyebrow. "Are you negotiating?" "I'm setting boundaries." Elena finally turned to face him. "I'll take care of your children, Mr. Blackwood. I'll do everything I can to help them feel safe and loved. But I won't do it alone. They need their father, not just another person who takes care of them while you hide in your office. So if I agree to this, you have to agree to be present. Dinner together as a family at least 4 nights a week, and 1 full day on the weekend. No work. That's the deal." Lucas and Maya both looked at their father with identical expressions of desperate hope. Sebastian Blackwood, billionaire CEO, master of the universe, looked at his children and at the maid who just strong-armed him into parenting. And then he smiled, a real smile, tired and broken but genuine. "Deal," he said. The first family dinner was a disaster. Sebastian sat at the head of the table in the formal dining room, all crystal chandeliers and china that probably cost more than a car, looking deeply uncomfortable. The twins sat on either side, silent and stiff. Elena had cooked something simple: pasta with marinara sauce, garlic bread, salad, normal food that normal families ate. But there was nothing normal about this. "So," Sebastian said, cutting into his pasta with the precision of a surgeon, "how was everyone's day?" Silence. Maya pushed food around her plate. Lucas stared at his father like he was a stranger. Elena, who'd insisted on eating with them despite Sebastian's initial protests, cleared her throat. "Maya drew a beautiful picture today. Want to tell your dad about it?" Maya shrugged, not looking up. "It was of a garden," Elena continued, "with butterflies and flowers. Very detailed." "That's nice," Sebastian said. He sounded like he was reading from a script. "You're very talented, Maya." Another silence. Elena caught Sebastian's eye and saw panic there. He had no idea how to talk to his own children. It was heartbreaking and infuriating in equal measure. "Lucas is getting really good at chess," Elena offered. "He beat me twice today." "Chess," Sebastian repeated. "That's excellent, very strategic." "You don't even know how to play chess, Daddy," Lucas said quietly. It wasn't accusatory, just a statement of fact. Well, I'm sure I could learn." "Your mom knew how to play." Lucas's voice was flat. "She taught us." The temperature in the room dropped. Maya's eyes welled up instantly. Sebastian looked like he'd been punched. "Your mother was good at many things," Sebastian said carefully, "much better at them than I am." "You never talk about her," Maya said, and suddenly she was crying again. "It's like you want to forget her." "Maya, that's not—" "It is!" She pushed back from the table, her chair screeching against the floor. "You never say her name, you never look at her pictures, you just work and work and work and pretend we don't exist." "Maya—" But she was already running from the room, her footsteps echoing up the stairs. A door slammed somewhere above. Lucas stood up slowly, his expression unreadable. "She's right, you know. You did forget her. You forgot all of us." He walked away without another word, leaving Sebastian and Elena alone at the table. Sebastian sat frozen, his face pale. His hands were shaking slightly. "I should go check on them," Elena said softly. "No," Sebastian's voice was rough. "No, I should—" But he didn't move. He just sat there, staring at his untouched plate. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know what they need." Elena could have left it there, could have let him wallow, but something in his broken expression reminded her of herself years ago when she'd first lost Emma, that same helpless desperation. "They need you to be honest, Mr. Blackwood. They need you to stop pretending you're okay when you're not. They need to know that you miss their mother too, that you're sad too. Right now, they think they're alone in their grief. They think you moved on and left them behind." "I didn't move on," Sebastian whispered. I didn't know how to keep breathing and grieving at the same time, so I chose breathing." "Then tell them that." "I can't. I'm their father. I'm supposed to be strong." "Being strong doesn't mean not hurting, Mr. Blackwood. It means letting them see you hurt and still showing up anyway." Elena stood, starting to clear the plates. "Those kids have watched 17 nannies give up on them. They need to see that you won't." "What if I do?" He looked up at her, and Elena was startled by the raw vulnerability in his eyes. "What if I can't be what they need?" "Then you fail trying, but you fail together as a family. That's still better than succeeding at hiding from each other." Elena left him sitting there, alone with his cold pasta and colder fears. The next morning, Elena found a note slipped under her apartment door. "You're right, I'll try. SB." That same evening, Sebastian came home at 6 p.m. instead of midnight. He found the twins in the living room with Elena, helping her fold laundry, a task that had somehow turned into a towel folding competition. "Can I join?" he asked from the doorway. All three of them turned to stare at him. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. He looked nervous. "You want to fold laundry?" Lucas asked suspiciously. "I want to spend time with my kids." Sebastian moved into the room, picked up a towel. "Elena's right. I've been hiding. From work, from this house, from you, and I'm sorry." Maya watched him from the couch, her expression carefully neutral. "Are you just saying that because Elena told you to?" "Yes," Sebastian admitted, "and also because it's true. I miss your mother every day, but I also miss you, and you're right here. That's not okay." "You're bad at folding," Lucas observed as Sebastian struggled with the towel. "Terrible," Sebastian agreed. "Your mom was better at this." For the first time in 2 years he'd said it, "your mom,"
not avoiding the words, not dancing around the absence, just acknowledging it simply and honestly. Maya burst into tears, but this time when she cried, Sebastian was there. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, holding her tight while she sobbed into his shirt. Lucas stood frozen, watching. His face was carefully blank, but Elena saw the way his hands trembled, his jaw clenched like he was holding back an ocean of emotion. "Come here, buddy," Sebastian said quietly, extending one arm. Lucas shook his head. "I'm fine." "No, you're not. Neither am I. Come here." For a long moment, Lucas didn't move. Then, like a dam breaking, he crossed the room and buried his face in his father's side. Sebastian wrapped both arms around his children, and they stood there in the middle of the living room, surrounded by unfolded laundry, finally letting themselves break together. Elena quietly slipped out of the room, her own eyes burning with tears. After that night, things began to shift. Sebastian started coming home earlier. Not every night, he still had a company to run, but more often than not, he'd walk through the door before dinner. He'd join them for meals, ask about their days, try to learn the games they liked to play. He was clumsy at it, awkward. He didn't always know what to say or how to react, but he showed up, and the twins noticed. Maya started smiling more, real smiles, not the brittle ones she'd worn like armor. She'd chatter about her day, show Sebastian her drawings, demand his attention with the confidence of a child who was learning she deserved it. Lucas was slower to thaw. He'd watch his father with cautious eyes, like he was waiting for the other shoe to drop. But gradually, Elena saw him soften. He started sitting closer to Sebastian during family movie nights, started asking if his father wanted to learn chess, started using the word dad instead of the formal daddy or father. And through it all, Elena was there. She wasn't a nanny, not officially. She still cleaned and cooked and maintained the house, but she was also the one who kissed scraped knees, who helped with nightmares, who knew that Lucas liked his sandwiches cut diagonally and Maya needed her bedroom door open exactly 3 inches at night to feel safe. She became the glue holding them together, while Sebastian learned how to be a father again. But she was also becoming something else, something she hadn't planned for, something she terrified. She was falling in love with this broken family, and worse, she was falling in love with Sebastian Blackwood. It happened in small moments. The way he looked at his children with fierce, protective love when he thought no one was watching. The way he actually listened when she gave him advice, even when it challenged him. The way his whole face transformed when he smiled, rare but devastating. The way he'd caught her eye during a family dinner after Maya had told a particularly ridiculous joke and they'd shared a moment of pure connection. 2 adults watching these children come back to life, knowing they were part of making that happen. The way he'd touched her arm one evening, just briefly, and said, "Thank you for everything. I don't know what we'd do without you." Elena knew she was in dangerous territory. She was the maid. He was a billionaire. She had secrets she couldn't share, a daughter she couldn't mention, a past that would destroy everything if he knew. This wasn't her family. She was just borrowing them. But God, how she wanted them to be hers. 6 weeks into the new arrangement, Mrs. Kowalski cornered Elena in the kitchen. "You've done well," the older woman said without preamble. "The house is cleaner than it's been in years. The children are thriving. Even Mr. Blackwood seems more present." "Thank you," Elena said cautiously. Mrs. Kowalski's compliments usually came with conditions. "But I'm concerned about boundaries." There it was. "What do you mean?" Elena asked, though she knew exactly what Mrs. Kowalski meant. "You're becoming too involved, too attached." Mrs. Kowalski's expression wasn't unkind, but it was firm. "I've seen this before. Staff members who forget their place, who start thinking they're part of the family." "I haven't forgotten." "Haven't you?" Mrs. Kowalski tilted her head.
You eat dinner with them every night. You put the children to bed. You make decisions about their care without consulting anyone. And I've seen the way you look at Mr. Blackwood." Elena's face burned. I'm not judging you, my dear. I'm warning you." Mrs. Kowalski's voice softened slightly. "Mr. Blackwood is a good man, but he's also a grieving widower with 2 children and a billion-dollar company. You're an employee, a valued one, yes, but still an employee. Don't mistake gratitude and familiarity for something more." "I understand," Elena said stiffly. "Do you?" Mrs. Kowalski studied her. "Because from where I'm standing, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak. And when it comes, and it will come, those children will lose another person they've come to depend on. Is that really what you want?" Elena had no answer for that. Because Mrs. Kowalski was right. Elena knew it in her bones. This couldn't last. Eventually, Sebastian would move on, find someone appropriate, someone from his world. Eventually, Elena would have enough money for her lawyer, would go through her custody battle, would hopefully get Emma back. And when that happened, she'd have to leave. She'd have to walk away from Maya and Lucas and Sebastian, and it would destroy her. But she'd also destroy them if they ever learned the truth about why she was really here. "I'm using you," she thought, watching Maya and Lucas play outside through the kitchen window. "I'm using your family's money to get my daughter back, and I'm lying to you every single day." The guilt was eating her alive. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat in her small apartment, staring at Emma's photo on her phone, trying to reconcile the 2 halves of her life. She loved Emma, had never stopped loving her, had spent every day of the past 2 years fighting to get her back. Emma was her daughter, her baby, her entire heart. But Maya and Lucas, they'd burrowed into her soul too. And Sebastian. A knock on her door startled her. Elena glanced at the clock, nearly midnight. She opened the door to find Sebastian standing there, still in his work clothes, looking exhausted and uncertain. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "I know it's late. I saw your light on and I wanted to talk to you about something." Elena's heart hammered. Had he found out? Had someone told him about Emma, about her past? "Of course," she managed. "Come in." He stepped into her small apartment, looking around with an expression she couldn't quite read. It was the first time he'd been in her space, a space that reflected how little she owned, how temporary she expected this all to be. "I got a call from my lawyer today," Sebastian said, turning to face her, "about custody arrangements." Elena's blood went cold. "Custody?" "My late wife's parents," Sebastian ran his hair through his hair. "They've been difficult since Caroline died. They think I'm not fit to raise the twins alone. They've been making noise about seeking custody." "That's ridiculous," Elena said, relief flooding through her that this wasn't about her own secrets. "You're a wonderful father. You're trying so hard." "Because of you." Sebastian's gray eyes locked onto hers. "The twins are different because of you, Elena. They're happier, healthier. They're starting to heal. And it's made me realize something." He took a step closer. "The custody evaluation is in 3 months. They'll look at every aspect of our lives: stability, care, emotional well-being. My lawyer says we have a strong case, but—" He paused. "It would be stronger if there was more permanent stability in the children's lives." Elena's mouth dried. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that Mrs. Kowalski was right. You've become essential to this family, not as an employee, but as—" he seemed to struggle with the words, "as someone we can't imagine our lives without." "Sebastian, I know this is crazy. I know you probably think I've lost my mind, but Elena, you make us whole. You've brought life back into this house. The kids love you. I—" He stopped, swallowed hard. I need to know if there's any chance you feel the same way." Elena's mind was spinning. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't supposed to happen. "I'm the maid," she whispered. "You're so much more than that." Sebastian reached out, his hand hovering near her face, but not quite touching. "Tell me I'm not imagining this. Tell me you feel it too." She did. God help her, she did, standing there in her tiny apartment, looking at this man who was broken and putting himself back together piece by piece, who loved his children with a fierceness that made her ache, who looked at her like she was something precious. She felt everything. But she also felt the weight of her secrets, the photo of Emma burning in her pocket, the knowledge that she was living a lie. "It doesn't matter what I feel," Elena said, stepping back. "Your in-laws are right to worry about stability. I'm not who you think I am." "Then tell me who you are." "I can't." "Elena, I have a daughter." The words fell like stones between them. Sebastian froze. "Her name is Emma. She's 6 years old. She's in foster care, and I'm trying to get her back." The words tumbled out now, 2 years of secrets spilling free. "I lost custody 2 years ago. I was in an accident, the one that gave me this scar. My ex-boyfriend was driving drunk, crashed the car. I was arrested as an accessory because the drugs in the car were registered to me even though they were his. I lost everything. My daughter, my apartment, my job. I went to jail for 6 months." Sebastian's face had gone completely blank. "I've been clean ever since," Elena continued, the words desperate now. "I've done everything the court asked, but I need a good lawyer, and I can't afford one. That's why I took this job, not because I wanted to work for you, but because I needed the money. I've been saving every penny to hire someone who can help me prove I'm fit to be a mother again." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. "So no," Elena said, her voice breaking. "Whatever you think you feel for me, whatever you think this is, it's based on a lie. I'm not the person you need. I'm not stable or appropriate or anything your in-laws would approve of. I'm just someone who's using your family to get her own back." She waited for anger, for disgust, for him to order her out of his house and his children's lives. Instead, Sebastian said quietly, "Does Emma know about Maya and Lucas?" Of all the responses Elena had expected, that wasn't one of them. "What? Your daughter, does she know you're taking care of other children while you're fighting to get her back?" "No, I haven't been allowed contact, just supervised visits once a month, and I don't—" Elena's voice cracked. "I don't know how to tell her that I see other kids every day while I can't see her." Sebastian nodded slowly, like he was processing something. "And the money you're saving? How close are you?" "Close. Another 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, and I'll have enough for a retainer." Elena swiped at her eyes angrily. "Not that it matters now. I'll leave in the morning. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I lied to you." "You didn't lie. You just didn't tell me everything. There's a difference." Elena stared at him. You're not angry?" "Angry?" Sebastian let out a strange, broken laugh. "Elena, I'm devastated." Her heart cracked. "I know, I understand. I'm devastated that you've been carrying this alone, that you've been working yourself to exhaustion, taking care of my children while desperately missing your own, and you didn't feel like you could tell me. I'm devastated that the first person who made my family feel whole again thinks she's not good enough to be part of it. I'm not. You're a mother fighting to get her child back. You've turned your life around. You work harder than anyone I've ever met. You love Maya and Lucas like they're your own, even knowing you'd have to leave them." Sebastian's voice was fierce now. "How is any of that not good enough?" "Your in-laws." They didn't approve of Caroline marrying me in the first place, thought I was too focused on business, not cultured enough for their precious daughter. They'll find fault with anyone in our lives." Sebastian stepped closer. "But do you want to know what my lawyer actually said? She said the evaluators will look at the children's well-being above everything else, and my children are thriving because of you." "Because I lied to them too," Elena whispered. "They don't know about Emma either. They think I'm just their whatever I am. When they find out, then we tell them together." Sebastian reached out, and this time he did touch her face, his hand warm against her scarred cheek. "Elena, I've spent 2 years being afraid of failing my kids, afraid of loving anyone again, afraid of letting anyone see how broken I was. And then you walked into our lives and showed me that broken doesn't mean beyond repair. Let me do the same for you." "You don't understand what you're offering." "Don't I? You think my in-laws won't dig up every mistake I've ever made? You think they won't use Caroline's death against me? Say I worked her to death, stressed her so much it caused the cancer?" His voice shook. "I'm terrified of that evaluation, Elena, but I'm more terrified of doing it without you." "Sebastian, marry me." Elena's brain short-circuited. "What?" "Marry me." He said it again, more firmly this time, "not because it would help with the custody evaluation, though it would, and not because I'm trying to solve your problems, though I want to help with Emma, want to hire the best lawyer money can buy. Marry me because I'm falling in love with you, and I think you're falling in love with me too, and life's too short to let fear stop us." "That's insane," Elena breathed. "You barely know me." "I know you count things when you're anxious. I know you make hot chocolate with way too many marshmallows. I know you sing to yourself when you think no one's listening, and you always check on the kids one more time before you go to bed. I know you're brave and fierce and gentle and real." Sebastian's thumb brushed her cheekbone. "I know when you smile at me, I feel like I can breathe again for the first time in 2 years. Is that enough?" It was too much. It was everything. It was impossible. "I can't let you do this," Elena said, even as she leaned into his touch. "Your in-laws will destroy me. They'll find out everything, the arrest, the drugs, all of it, and they'll use it to destroy you too." "Then let them try." Sebastian smiled, and it was the first truly fearless expression she'd seen on his face. "I'm tired of being afraid, Elena. I'm tired of half-living. Caroline would hate what I've become these past 2 years. She'd hate that I've let our children suffer because I was too scared to move forward. She was your wife, and she's gone, and I loved her, and I'll always love her, but she's gone. And I'm still here, and so are our children, and so are you. And I think maybe we're all supposed to save each other." Elena closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. "What about Emma?" "We'll get her back, together. I meant what I said. I'll hire the best lawyers, we'll do whatever it takes. And when she comes home, she'll have siblings who already love her, and a father who can't wait to meet her, and a mother who never stopped fighting for her." "You're proposing a fairy tale." "I'm proposing a chance." Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. "Say yes, Elena. Be scared with me. Be brave with me. Let's be a family, messy and complicated and real." And standing there in her tiny apartment with the photo of her daughter in her pocket and her heart full of love for a family that somehow impossibly wanted her back, Elena chose hope over fear. "Yes," she whispered, "yes." Sebastian's kiss was gentle, reverent, full of promise.
And for the first time in 2 years, Elena let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this.
They told the children the next morning. Sebastian gathered Maya and Lucas in the living room before breakfast. Elena stood beside him, their hands linked, both of them nervous. "We have something important to tell you," Sebastian began. "Are you sending us away?" Lucas asked immediately, his face going pale. "Did we do something wrong?" "What? No!" Sebastian knelt down, bringing himself to their level. "Nothing like that. Never. You're not going anywhere." "Then what?" Maya's eyes darted between them, suspicious and hopeful in equal measure. Elena squeezed Sebastian's hand, then let go. She knelt too, so all four of them were at the same height. "I need to tell you both something," Elena said. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." And she did. She told them about Emma, about the accident, about losing custody and fighting to get her daughter back. She told them about taking this job to save money for a lawyer, about how guilty she felt caring for them while her own child was in foster care. She told them everything. When she finished, both children were silent. Then Maya said, "You have a little girl?" "Yes." "And you can't see her?" "I can visit her once a month, for 1 hour, with someone watching us the whole time." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "That's so sad." "It is," Elena agreed. "It's the saddest thing in my life." "But," Lucas was processing, his brilliant little mind working through the implications. "But if you needed money for a lawyer, why are you still here? You've been here for weeks now. You must have enough by now." "I do, almost." Elena looked at Sebastian, then back at the children. "But something else happened, something I didn't plan for. I fell in love with your family." "With Daddy?" Maya asked. "Yes, with your dad, and with both of you." Elena's voice shook. "I didn't mean to. I knew I'd have to leave eventually, but you're all so amazing and so brave, and I couldn't help it." "So what happens now?" Lucas asked. He sounded scared. "Now," Sebastian said, picking up the thread, "we're asking if you'd be okay with Elena becoming a more permanent part of our family. Not as an employee, but as," he took a breath, "as my wife, as your stepmother." Silence. Then Lucas said flatly, "Like in Cinderella?" Sebastian blinked. What?" "Cinderella, the evil stepmother." Lucas's expression was carefully neutral. "Is that what you're going to be?" "Lucas!" Maya gasped. But Elena understood. Lucas was testing her the same way he'd tested everyone, pushing to see if she'd break, if she'd give up, if she'd prove that love was conditional. "I hope not," Elena said honestly. "I hope I'll be a good stepmother. But Lucas, I'm going to mess up sometimes. I'm going to make mistakes, and there will probably be times when you think I'm evil, especially when I tell you to do things you don't want to do." "Then why should we say yes?" "Because I promise I'll never stop trying. I'll never give up on you, even when things are hard. Even when you push me away, and you will, because you're scared, I'll still be here." Elena held his gaze. "Just like I'll never stop fighting for Emma. Family isn't perfect, Lucas, but it's people who show up anyway." Lucas studied her for a long moment. Then, "Will Emma live with us?" "If we can get custody back, yes. She'd be your sister." "Would we share our rooms?" "We'd figure it out together. Maybe build an addition to the house, or rearrange things so everyone has space." "Would Daddy still have time for us, or would he just pay attention to you and Emma?" Daddy flinched, but Elena smiled. "That's a good question, and the answer is that we'd all have to work at it. But that's the deal. Your dad and I made an agreement that he'd be more present. That's not changing. You're stuck with us, both of us. showing up and loving you even when you don't make it easy. Maya had been quiet through all of this, just watching. Now she spoke up, her voice small. "Would you leave if Daddy told you to?" "What?" Elena's heart cracked. "Would you leave us? If Daddy got mad at you, or if you fought, or if we weren't good enough? Would you go away like everyone else?" And there it was, the core fear, the wound that 17 nannies had left behind. Elena reached out slowly, giving Maya time to pull away. When she didn't, Elena cupped her small face in both hands. "Maya, do you remember when Miss Patricia tried to hit you and I stopped her?" Maya nodded. "Do you remember what I told you that day? I said that even if I had to leave, it wouldn't be because of you, that nothing you could do would deserve to be abandoned." Another nod. "That's still true, and it will always be true. But here's something else that's true. I don't want to leave. I want to stay forever. I want to watch you grow up, see you graduate, embarrass you in front of your friends, cry at your wedding someday." Elena's voice shook. "I want to be your mom, Maya, not to replace the mom you had. Nobody could ever do that. But to be another person who loves you that much. If you let me." Maya threw herself into Elena's arms, sobbing. "I want that too. I want you to stay." Elena held her tight, looking over her head at Lucas. He was still standing apart, still guarded. "What about you, buddy?" Sebastian asked his son gently. Lucas looked at his sister crying in Elena's arms. He looked at his father, who was trying so hard to be better. He looked at Elena, who just handed him all her vulnerabilities and trusted him not to use them as weapons. "If we say yes," he said slowly, "and you marry Elena, and we become a family, what happens if the court says no? What happens if they say Elena can't get Emma back, or that we can't keep her?" It was a gut punch of a question, the kind that showed exactly how smart and how scared Lucas was. "Then we fight," Sebastian said firmly. "All of us, together. We get the best lawyers in the state. We prove that Elena is an amazing mother. We show them that Emma deserves to be with her family. And we don't give up. Even if it's hard? Especially if it's hard. That's what families do." Lucas was quiet for another long moment. Then he walked over to Elena and Maya and wrapped his arms around both of them. "Okay," he whispered into Elena's shoulder. "Okay, you can stay." And just like that, the four of them were crying together, holding each other, becoming something new and fragile and real. A family. The next 2 months were a whirlwind. Sebastian hired the best family lawyer in the state for Elena's custody case. They filed an emergency petition for increased visitation, arguing that Elena had demonstrated stability and should be allowed more time with her daughter while the case proceeded. The judge agreed to supervised visits twice a week. The first time Elena saw Emma after months of monthly hour-long visits, she broke down completely. Emma was bigger, her face more mature, her eyes more cautious. She didn't run to Elena like she used to. She stood back, uncertain, like she didn't quite remember this woman who claimed to be her mother. "Hi, baby," Elena whispered, kneeling down. "I've missed you so much." "You didn't come last time," Emma said. "It wasn't an accusation, just a fact. Miss Jennifer said you didn't want to see me." Elena's heart shattered. The social worker, Miss Jennifer, shifted uncomfortably. "That's not exactly what That's not true, Emma." Elena kept her voice steady, even though she wanted to scream. "I always want to see you, but the rules say I can only visit at certain times. I'm trying to change those rules so I can see you more." "Why?" "Because I'm your mama, and I love you, and I'm working very hard to bring you home." Emma studied her with those old eyes.
6 years old, and already she'd learned not to trust promises. "Miss Jennifer says you might not get to keep me." "Miss Jennifer needs to stop saying things to my daughter," Elena said, her voice sharp now. She looked at the social worker. "With all due respect, she's 6. She doesn't need to hear about the legal uncertainties. She needs to know her mother loves her. I'm required to prepare her for all possible outcomes. You're required to act in her best interest. Terrifying her isn't that." Elena turned back to Emma. "Baby, here's what I can promise you. I will never stop fighting for you. Never. And while we wait for the grown-ups to figure out the paperwork, I want to tell you about some people who are very excited to meet you." "What people?"
I have a new job, and the family I work for, they have 2 kids your age, twins, and they really, really want to meet you." Emma's eyes widened slightly, the first real emotion Elena had seen. Twins? Yup, a boy named Lucas and a girl named Maya. They're 6, just like you, and they like drawing and chess and building forts and— Elena smiled. "They like a lot of things. I thought maybe, if it's okay with Miss Jennifer, they could come to one of our visits. Would you like that?" Emma nodded slowly, and for the first time in months, Elena saw a glimmer of her daughter's old smile. Sebastian's custody evaluation was scheduled for 3 weeks after the engagement. His in-laws, Caroline's parents, Gerald and Patricia Montgomery, arrived with their lawyer and enough hostility to freeze the entire house. "This is absurd, Sebastian," Patricia said the moment she walked in. She was a tall, thin woman who'd probably been beautiful once, but had hardened into something sharp and cold. "Remarrying already? Caroline's barely been gone 2 years." "Caroline's been gone 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days, Sebastian replied calmly. "And she'd want me to be happy. She'd want the children to be happy." "And you think marrying the maid will accomplish that?" Gerald sneered. He looked like old money, silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of casual contempt that came from generations of privilege. "Your sources," Elena said from the doorway, "need to learn about privacy laws." All heads turned. Elena stood there in a simple dress, her hair down, meeting Patricia's cold gaze without flinching. "Mrs. Montgomery, Mr. Montgomery, I'm Elena Martinez." "We know who you are," icily Patricia said. "Drug arrest, jail time, child abandonment." "I was in an accident caused by someone else's drunk driving. The drugs weren't mine, but they were in my name, so I took the fall. I spent 6 months in jail, and I've been clean ever since. And I didn't abandon my daughter. She was taken from me by a system that doesn't always differentiate between addicts and victims." Elena's voice was steady. "But I've done everything asked of me to get her back. I've attended therapy, passed drug tests, maintained stable employment and housing. I'm not perfect, but I'm a good mother." "A good mother who's currently living in someone else's home, taking care of someone else's children, while her own child languishes in foster care." Patricia's smile was cruel. "Tell me, how does that make you qualified to be a stepmother to my grandchildren?" "Because I understand what they've lost, because I know what it's like to have your world shatter and no one know how to help you, because I see them, really see them, instead of just seeing problems to be fixed." Elena moved further into the room. "Your grandchildren are amazing, Mrs. Montgomery. They're smart and funny and resilient. They've survived something terrible, and they're learning to live again. I'm so sorry you can't see that through your grief." "Don't you dare!" "I loved Caroline too," Sebastian's voice cut through the room. "I loved her with everything I had, but she's gone and I'm not. The children aren't, and Caroline would be furious if she could see us right now, fighting over her children like their property, using her memory as a weapon instead of a comfort." "We're trying to protect them," said Gerald. "From what? From happiness? From healing? From having more people who love them?" Sebastian shook his head. "You blame me for Caroline's death. You think if I'd worked less, stressed her less, somehow the cancer wouldn't have happened. But that's not how cancer works, and you know it." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "You weren't there. At the end, you were always working, and she was so alone. I was trying to keep the company running so we'd have money for her treatment. I was taking calls with oncologists while running board meetings. I was falling apart, and I couldn't let anyone see it because I had to be strong for her, for the kids, for everyone." Sebastian's voice broke. "I failed her. I know I did, but I'm not failing our children. Not again." The room fell silent. Then Maya's voice came from the stairs. "Grandma?" Everyone turned. Both twins stood on the staircase, clearly having heard everything. Maya's face was streaked with tears. Lucas's jaw was clenched. "Mommy wouldn't want this," Maya said. "She wouldn't want us to be sad forever. She told us before she died, she told us it was okay to be happy someday." "She said Daddy would need help," Lucas added. "She said we had to take care of each other. That's what Elena does. She helps us take care of each other." Patricia's composure cracked. She stood abruptly. "We'll see what the evaluators say." She swept out, Gerald following. Their lawyer lingered just long enough to say, "You've made this very difficult for yourselves," before leaving as well. Sebastian sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. Elena sat beside him, and within seconds both twins were there too, all of them piled together, holding each other up. "Did we do okay?" Lucas asked quietly. "You were perfect," Sebastian said, "both of you." "Are they going to take us away?" Maya whispered. "No." Elena wrapped her arms around the little girl. "We won't let that happen." But even as she said it, Elena wondered if she was making a promise she couldn't keep. Drop a comment and let me know. Do you think they'll make it through the evaluation? Or are the Montgomerys going to tear this family apart just as it's coming together? The custody evaluation took 3 days. Social workers came to the house, observing family dynamics, interviewing everyone separately. They watched Sebastian with the children, Elena with the children, all 4 of them together. They asked invasive questions about everything: finances, mental health, daily routines, discipline methods, plans for the future. They dug into Elena's past with the thoroughness of archaeologists. Every mistake she'd ever made, every bad decision, every moment of weakness, all of it laid out and examined. But they also saw the children. Maya, who'd been sullen and withdrawn with 17 nannies, chattering happily to Elena about her day at school. Lucas, who'd barely spoken to his father for 2 years, playing chess with Sebastian and actually laughing when he lost. Both children spontaneously hugging Elena, calling her by name with affection and trust. And they saw Sebastian and Elena together, the way they moved as a unit, anticipating each other's needs, presenting a united front while still maintaining their individual voices. On the 3rd day, the lead evaluator, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Reeves, sat with them all. "I'm going to be honest with you," she said. "This is an unusual situation. Miss Montgomery's history raises some concerns. The speed of this relationship raises concerns. The involvement of the custody battle for another child raises concerns." Elena's heart sank. "However," Dr. Reeves continued, "what I see here is a family that's healing. 2 children who have experienced devastating loss and are learning to trust again. A father who's learning to balance his career with his responsibilities to his children, and a woman who's fighting for her own child while simultaneously giving everything she has to 2 others. She looked at each of them in turn. "Mr. Blackwood, you're not perfect. You work too much, you struggle with emotional vulnerability, and you've relied too heavily on others to raise your children. But you're trying, And more importantly, you're succeeding. Your children are happy and healthy and thriving." She turned to Elena. "Miss Martinez, your past is complicated, but your present is remarkable. The dedication you've shown to these children while maintaining your fight for your own daughter speaks to a strength of character that can't be faked. And the children's attachment to you is genuine and healthy." Finally, she looked at the twins. "Maya, Lucas, you've both been through more than any child should have to endure, but you're not broken. You're resilient, and you're lucky to have so many people fighting for you." Dr. Reeves closed her folder. "My recommendation to the court will be that custody remain with Mr. Blackwood with no restrictions. The concern raised by the Montgomerys that Mr. Blackwood is unable to adequately parent his children is unfounded. He has created a stable, loving home with appropriate support systems in place." Sebastian's eyes closed in relief. Maya let out a small sob. Lucas grabbed Elena's hand and squeezed so tight it hurt. "Additionally," Dr. Reeves said, "I'll be filing a supplemental report with the court handling Miss Martinez's custody case. If Emma's foster placement is even half as good as what I've observed here, she should be returned to her mother as soon as possible. This is exactly the kind of home environment a child needs, and Emma would be fortunate to be part of it." Elena couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only sit there with tears streaming down her face while this stranger, this beautiful, wonderful stranger, gave her back her hope. 3 months later, on a sunny Saturday in April, Elena stood in a courtroom and heard the words she'd dreamed about for 2 years. "Based on the evidence presented and the recommendations of the evaluators, I'm ruling in favor of Miss Martinez. Custody of Emma Martinez is hereby returned to her mother, effective immediately." The courtroom erupted. Elena's lawyer was talking, Miss Jennifer was gathering papers, someone was congratulating her, but Elena couldn't process any of it. She could only stare at the little girl sitting in the front row between Sebastian and Maya and Lucas. Emma, who'd been brought to court for the ruling, Emma, who'd been visiting twice a week for months now, slowly learning to trust her mother again. Emma, who'd become fast friends with the twins, who'd slept in Maya's room during overnight visits, who'd been cautiously, carefully letting herself believe this might be real. "Emma?" Elena whispered. The little girl launched herself across the space between them. Elena caught her, holding her daughter for the first time in 2 years without a social worker timing them, without rules or restrictions, or someone watching to make sure they didn't get too comfortable. Just a mother and daughter, together again. "Are we going home, Mama?" Emma asked into Elena's shoulder. "Yes, baby, we're going home." "To the big house with Maya and Lucas and Mr. Sebastian?" "To the big house, to our family." They got married on a Saturday in May in the garden behind the Blackwood mansion. It was small, just close friends, Mrs. Kowalski, who cried through the entire ceremony, Sebastian's business partner and his wife, and the children. Maya was the flower girl, wearing a pink dress and a flower crown, taking her job with utmost seriousness. Lucas was the ring bearer, trying to look solemn but breaking into a grin when he caught Sebastian's eye. And Emma stood beside Elena as her junior bridesmaid, wearing a lavender dress and the biggest smile anyone had ever seen on her face. Elena wore a simple white dress, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. She'd insisted on that, even when Sebastian had offered to buy her anything she wanted. "I don't need expensive," she'd told him. "I just need you." When she walked down the aisle, or rather the garden path, she carried a bouquet of wildflowers. No wedding march, just the sound of birds singing and the soft hum of the breeze through the leaves. Sebastian stood at the end of the path in a navy suit, and when he saw her, his entire face lit up. "Hi," Elena whispered when she reached him. "Hi," he whispered back. The officiant, a friend of Sebastian's from college who'd gotten ordained online just for this wedding, cleared his throat. We're gathered here today to celebrate the union of Sebastian Blackwood and Elena Martinez. These two people have been through fires that would have broken most of us. They've lost, they've failed, they've fallen, and they've gotten back up. He smiled at the children. And in getting back up, they've built something beautiful. Not perfect, because nothing is perfect, but real and strong and full of love. The ceremony was short. They'd written their own vows, kept them simple. "I promise to show up," Sebastian said, his voice rough with emotion. "I promise to be present, even when work calls. I promise to be a father to all three of our children, to love them equally and fiercely. And I promise to love you, Elena, your strength, your scars, your past, your future, all of it." Elena's turn. She looked at Sebastian, then at the children, then back at the man who'd taken a chance on a maid with secrets and somehow made her believe in second chances. "I promise to be honest with you, to tell you when I'm scared, when I'm struggling, when I need help. I promise to love your children, our children, with everything I have. I promise to never give up, even when things are hard. And I promise to remind you every single day that you're not alone anymore. None of us are." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands that matched. "By the power vested in me by the Internet and the state of California," the officiant said with a grin, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Sebastian cupped Elena's face in both hands, his thumbs brushing away the tears on her cheeks. "Thank you," he whispered, "for saving us." "Thank you for letting me," she whispered back. Their kiss was sweet and simple and full of promise. Behind them, all three children cheered. That night, after the small reception, after the cake and the dancing and the laughter, Elena tucked Emma into bed in her new room. They'd added an addition to the house, a new wing, with Emma's bedroom right between Maya's and Lucas's. The three kids had already decided they'd have sleepovers every weekend, all piled into one room together. "Mama," said Emma as Elena pulled the covers up to her chin. "Baby, are you going to leave again?"
Elena's heart squeezed. She sat on the edge of the bed, running her fingers through Emma's dark curls. "No, sweetheart, never. I'm here and I'm staying. Forever." "Do you promise?" "I promise. Cross my heart." Emma studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, I believe you." "I love you so much, Emma. Do you know that?" "I love you too, Mama," Emma yawned. "And I love Maya and Lucas, and Mr. Sebastian is nice. He lets us have ice cream." Elena laughed. "I'll have to talk to him about that." "No, don't. He's the best." Emma's eyes were already closing. "We're a real family now, right?" "The realest family there ever was." Elena sat there until Emma's breathing evened out into sleep. Then she quietly left the room, pulling the door to exactly 3 inches, the same as Maya liked it, the same as Emma needed it. She found Sebastian in their bedroom, still a strange and wonderful thought. He was standing by the window, looking out at the garden where they'd gotten married just hours ago. "Hey," Elena said softly. He turned, smiling. "Hey yourself, Mrs. Blackwood. That's going to take some getting used to." "We have time." Sebastian crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. "We have all the time in the world." They stood there in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Elena said, "Sebastian, thank you." "For what?" "For everything, for taking a chance on me, for helping me get Emma back, for loving me even when I didn't think I deserved it." "Elena," Sebastian tilted her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. "You saved my family. You brought light back into this house. You gave my children, our children, permission to heal. I should be thanking you."
Then let's call it even. Deal. He kissed her then, soft and slow and full of all the tomorrows stretching out before them. From down the hall they heard giggling. Maya's door opened, then Lucas's, then Emma's. 3 sets of feet pattered across the floor. "Are you guys being gross?" Lucas called out. "Very gross," Sebastian called back, grinning against Elena's lips. "Can we have ice cream?" Maya asked. "It's 10 p.m. Is that a yes?" Emma piped up. Elena and Sebastian looked at each other. He raised an eyebrow, leaving the decision to her. "Fine," Elena said, trying to sound stern and failing completely, "but just this once, because it's a special day." 3 children cheered and thundered down the stairs toward the kitchen. "You know they're going to expect this every night now," Sebastian said. "Probably, but I don't care." Elena laced her fingers through his. "Come on, let's go have ice cream with our kids." "Our kids," Sebastian repeated, like he was testing out the words, like they were something precious and new. I like the sound of that. Me too. They headed downstairs together toward the sound of laughter and clattering bowls and 3 voices calling for them. Toward their family. Toward home. 1 year later. Elena stood in the kitchen, flour dusting her cheek, watching absolute chaos unfold around her. Emma and Maya were supposed to be decorating cookies. Instead, they'd turned it into a competition to see who could create the most ridiculous frosting combinations. Lucas was at the table doing homework, but kept getting distracted by the girls' shenanigans, laughing despite his attempts to stay focused. Sebastian had come home early, actually early, not just earlier than midnight, and was currently being used as a human jungle gym by all 3 kids. "Elena, help!" he called out, laughing as Emma climbed onto his shoulders while Maya and Lucas each grabbed a leg. "I'm being attacked." "You're on your own, Blackwood," Elena called back, grinning. Mrs. Kowalski bustled in with groceries, took one look at the scene, and shook her head. "This house used to be so quiet, so clean." "Boring," Maya corrected. "So boring," Mrs. Kowalski agreed, her eyes twinkling. "Much better this way." Later, after dinner and homework and baths and stories, after all 3 kids were finally asleep, in Maya's room, naturally, the sleepovers had become a nightly occurrence. Elena and Sebastian collapsed onto the couch. "Tired?" asked Sebastian. "Exhausted," Elena admitted. "And happy. Yeah?" "Yeah." She snuggled into his side, feeling his arm come around her automatically. "You know what I realized today?" "What's that?" "I don't count things anymore. When I'm anxious, I mean. I used to do it all the time. Count purple things, round things, whatever. It was the only way I could quiet my brain. And now? Now my brain is too full of good things to need quieting." Elena looked up at him. "Thank you for that." "Elena, you did that yourself. You fought for this. You earned it. We earned it together." Sebastian kissed the top of her head. Together. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the house settle around them. Somewhere upstairs, one of the kids was having a dream. Elena could hear the soft murmuring. The refrigerator hummed. The clock on the mantel ticked. The sounds of a home, a real home full of love and mess and noise and life. "Hey," Sebastian said suddenly, "remember that first day when Maya threw that vase at you? I thought I was going to die. How could I forget? And then you just sat down and cried with her. The nanny, all 17 nannies, would have run or lectured her or quit, but you just sat down and cried." "It was the only thing that made sense," Elena smiled at the memory. "She wasn't angry. She was just so sad, and she needed someone to be sad with her." "You saw what I couldn't see, what I was too scared to see." Sebastian's voice was thick with emotion. You saw my children, really saw them, and you loved them anyway, even when they were at their worst, even when they were trying to drive you away." "They weren't at their worst. They were just hurt." Elena turned so she could look at him properly. "And for the record, I wasn't some hero. I was a mess too. I was using you, using your family to get my daughter back. I was lying by omission every single day. I wasn't some noble person swooping in to save you." "No," Sebastian agreed. "You were a mother fighting for her child. You were a woman who'd been through hell and was trying to claw her way back. You were human and flawed and real, and that's exactly what we needed." "We were all pretty broken, huh?" "Yeah, but we fixed each other." Sebastian tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "And now look at us. 3 happy kids upstairs, a house full of laughter, a family that chose each other. Not bad for a billionaire and his maid. Not bad at all." They sat there a while longer, wrapped up in each other and in the impossible, beautiful life they'd built from broken pieces. Upstairs, Emma called out in her sleep, "Mama?" Elena started to get up, but Sebastian squeezed her shoulder. "I've got her. You rest." She watched him climb the stairs, this man who'd been so lost in his grief that he couldn't see his own children, now rushing to comfort a little girl who wasn't even his by blood, now rushing to comfort their daughter. Elena heard his voice, soft and soothing from Emma's room, heard Emma's sleepy response, the rustle of covers being tucked in tighter. Heard him check on Maya and Lucas, too, whispering good night, even though they were already asleep. When he came backstairs, Elena held out her hand. "Come on," she said, "let's go to bed." "It's only 9:30. "I know, right? We might actually get 8 hours of sleep. Living dangerously." They headed upstairs together, turning off lights as they went, leaving only the night lights in the hallway glowing softly. Tomorrow there would be breakfast chaos and forgotten homework, and someone would probably spill juice on something important. There would be work stress and parenting challenges and all the normal, beautiful complications of family life. But tonight they were all home, all safe, all together. And Elena Martinez Blackwood, former maid, former addict, former prisoner, former woman without a home, she had everything she'd ever dreamed of and more. She had her daughter. She had a husband who loved her. She had 2 bonus children who called her Mom now, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. She had a family, and she was never, ever letting them go. The end. So, tell me, did this story hit you in the feels? Did Sebastian and Elena's journey from employer and employee to partners and parents make you believe in second chances? Drop a comment below and let me know what part made you cry, because I know at least one part got you. And if you loved this story of broken people becoming a beautiful family, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss our next emotional journey. Until next time, remember, sometimes the family you need is the one you choose.